We've got a new Reddit leak talking about production problems for Avengers Endgame, conflict within Marvel Studios about the Captain Marvel character, and a detailed plot description of what's going down in the next Avengers movie. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Stay up to date about the nerdy things that you care about. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. What is up, everybody? I am, of course, Josh. This is, of course, the Den of Nerds. I want to say happy Wednesday to you.
It's hump day.
Woo-woo! And for a shout out today, I'm not going to shout out someone who got a nerd card question correct, although we will do a nerd card question at the end of this video. I actually want to shout out Molly's mistress, who hit me up on Twitter last night when this leak first started circulating on Reddit. If you guys want to follow us on Twitter, it's like right over there. Like, do that and come talk to me. Okay, so this is a very crazy leak on Reddit. And I wanted to, before we just get into all the stuff that's in this leak, I want to say a couple of different things. First of all, it is very hard for moderators on Reddit to basically authenticate this types of information. So obviously the people that come forward with this type of information, when they leak it, if it's legitimate, they obviously don't want to get their stuff out there. They don't want to get caught and don't want to get fired, okay? So a lot of these people, when they build these leak threads, they put in little things that sort of cover their tracks. And in this leak particularly, the person leaking says that there were 4 different reshoots for Avengers Endgame, and that this kind of means that some of the stuff they say could be changed because the 4th reshoot they were not a part of because they actually got fired. And it's a pretty clever tactic, so we don't know for sure if this is true or not, but here's another thing these people do. They take other legitimate leaks or sources out there that have been, already out there, and they sort of bend them or interweave them into the leak that they come up with. And so it's hard to say whether or not this is a legitimate leak, and even if this person is not legitimately leaking, there could still be some true spoilers for the film within this leak.
Doesn't make any sense.
And as I've stated many times in the past, sometimes these leaks come from pre-production, storyboards, concepts, even first go at scenes from shooting, and they can get changed a lot. And so, the person that did a leak for Infinity War that told us about Gamora being thrown off the cliff and Red Skull being in the movie, there was also a ton of other stuff in that leak that they talked about that never showed up in the movie. And I say all of that to sort of curb our enthusiasm here. Let's try to take this with a grain of salt, but also understand there could be potentially spoilers within this leak. So if you don't want to know anything about Endgame, get out of here, ignore this video, come back for the next one. But now let's dive into some of the stuff that's in this post. Now, before this person even talks plot points, he talks about a couple of different things that are sort of behind the scenes going on at Marvel. First of all, he claims to work, or he or she, I guess, claims to work for a production company that was one of many that's brought on to help Marvel Studios with reshoots and different things like this. Now, this is believable. This happens all the time. Marvel works with different production companies. As you get closer to the final edit of the movie, a lot of this stuff goes into silos and goes into sort of Disney stuff. So it's more protected the closer we get to the release. He claims that because Marvel was segmenting out information, they had narrowed down that somebody else associated with one of the production houses that Marvel was working with was clearly leaking stuff to 4chan and Reddit. And because of this, when they went to show up for the 4th reshoot for Endgame, they were fired. Now, one of the things this person talks about is contention within Marvel Studios about the Captain Marvel character. Apparently, according to this person, Marcus and McFeely and the Russo brothers did not want Carol Danvers to be a part of either one of these movies. They wanted it to focus on the original cast of the Avengers. They did not like the idea of sort of putting Captain Marvel into the fray here. They also talk about how the tones of the 2 movies were definitely not matching up. There were a lot of issues behind the scenes with the actors not wanting to shoot a bunch of Endgame stuff while they were filming Infinity War, and we know shooting back-to-back did cause a lot of drama and problems behind the scenes. It's just a logistical nightmare. But apparently this is why there were 4 different reshoots for Endgame, getting things right, sort of rebuilding the film narrative to get it to match up to Infinity War a little bit more. Not something a lot of people talked about. I mean, we all assumed, and I kind of still assume, that Endgame was such a heavy production, so crazy to get all of these people involved, that it just naturally took that many reshoots to sort of tweak things. So I don't know, take that for what you will, but apparently this guy is saying that there were 4 different reshoots for Endgame, and they were fired before they went to show up for the fourth one. There's also mention of the fact that Disney is leaking stuff themselves to try and set things up for the marketing. So when we were hearing that the title was going to be Annihilation, that there were all sorts of, leaks out there pointing to the fact that it was going to be Annihilation, this could have all been done by Marvel on purpose to misdirect people and to, get people confused and off the scent. And more it is seeming like this is something Marvel and Disney are engaged with, and they're getting much better at understanding social media, the state of the internet, and how to control the narrative online. Now, with that, there's also mention in this post about how they know that Captain Marvel could potentially flop, that Disney had been tracking what was going on with Brie Larson, what was going on with social media, and they were prepared for Captain Marvel to flop. After what happened with Solo, there were similar signs there. Now, we've been talking about this ad nauseum, but apparently in the reshoots, they had cut different versions of the film. One where there's heavy Captain Marvel influences in Endgame, and one where she's barely involved. But anyways, let's now talk about the plot points of the film. Look, there's too much to unpack in the first part of this here. Please go check out the original Reddit post and comment on it over there, because I don't really know what to think about, the production problems for Endgame, the fact that they didn't want Captain Marvel. Some part of me thinks it's legit, part of me thinks it's total crap, just playing off of what's going on with the drama currently on social media. All right, now let's go through the plot points here, and I'm not gonna talk about everything that was in this post, because there's some stuff that's just useless to me, and I wanna talk about the main plot points here. So let's just get into it. Okay, so there's a big part about how Captain Marvel has an alliance with the Nova Force, and the movie starts out with Captain Marvel investigating a distress call from Xandar before the decimation. Then the decimation happens in front of Captain Marvel and some of the members of the Nova Force. There's basically this idea that Captain Marvel owes them a lot because she wasn't there when Ronan attacked. Now the decimation happened. She wasn't there when Thanos decimated them before the decimation and got the Power Stone. I don't know, seems kind of cool. Ant-Man explores the quantum realm before falling on a time vortex. He goes into 1996 right before Captain Marvel leaves. The thing is, he has to go to that timeline to get a Kree device from Fury. Fury thinks Scott Lang is a Skrull, and he nicely jokes about that. Oh God, I didn't recognize you without the eye patch. I thought you were that spy, blah, 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 blah. This is actually how Nick Fury discovers that Captain America was still alive in the ice. Kind of interesting. I hope that happens. It says here, the rescue suit is created after Tony returns, and Pepper will end up saving him at some point. Captain Marvel will arrive on Titan 2. They see Thanos standing there waiting for them with a damaged gauntlet. So here's the thing. So in this scene, what is described is that Captain Marvel attacks Thanos with everything she has, but she can't withstand the power of the gauntlet. And then Thanos starts extracting energy from her with the Power Stone and delivers it back into the Space Stone. But apparently it's thwarted by a member of the Nova Force, so she's not killed, but she is depowered. It says the Avengers suits are created as life support for the quantum realm in outer space. Yes, they are visiting past movies. Ultron is in the movie, but they use old footage. Spader returned just to do a little bit of voiceover work. They're not stealing stones from the past, they're copying each of them. So apparently, because of the data they got from Vision when they're trying to get the stone out of his head, they know the molecular structure of the stone. And Tony can literally recreate the stones. And so they're going throughout time in different places, not to steal the stones there, but to literally create copies of them. Kind of interesting. Okay, apparently it says here Professor Hulk is controlled using the BARF technology. I don't really know what that means. They try a prototype of a gauntlet using vibranium, but it fails. Then they end up doing it with Uru metal from Mjolnir that ended up in the Yakuza's hands. And that's why Ronan is going there to recover them. The gauntlet is forged to fit Hulk because apparently Thor and Hulk are the only two that are able to use it. Vision becomes an AI, and apparently he's helping them with the job. Thanos hunts them down throughout time, and as expected, Doctor Strange has done something weird with the Time Stone, and it kind of keeps Thanos remaining stuck at the end of the first Avengers film, buying time for the Avengers to do their plan. Thanos knows the consequences of changing the past. Doctor Strange is sort of acting like Adam Warlock, sort of, helping them with their plan from afar. Captain Marvel can time travel using a specific Kree device, which is the one that Scott Lang brings from the old Nick Fury through the time vortex. It talks about this crazy scene at the end with all the Avengers fighting them. Hulk is using the stones to bring back people from the decimation, but his arm explodes. Captain America runs to the gauntlet, uses it, using his incredible willpower brings everybody back from the snap at the cost of his own life, disintegrating himself because of the power. The stones, the gauntlet, and Captain America are all destroyed, but then all of the Avengers come back and everybody gangs up on fighting Thanos. It's really crazy, and they fight him. Apparently, defeating Thanos and destroying the Infinity Stones unlocks some crazy cosmic entity that will be the huge thing for the MCU moving forward. The ending is Cap's funeral, and then Tony Stark retires. Okay, so a couple of different crazy things here. We did know that a lot of Carol Danvers' powers apparently comes from the Space Stone. That was a thing that we're pretty sure is going to happen in Captain Marvel. It is interesting if she does face off with Thanos and Thanos depowers her. I'd actually like that, but I just don't know if it sounds a little too outlandish to me. Also, Hulk using the gauntlet in his arm being destroyed is actually in the OG plot leak, so it's really interesting that he sort of, copy paste that idea into his plot leak. Again, I do think that will actually happen, that Hulk will use the gauntlet, it won't work, it'll destroy his arm. And the idea basically at the end here that Captain America uses the stones and literally with his willpower brings all of these people back, but it cost him his life, that makes sense. That ultimate sacrifice is actually something that I do think is going to happen in the movie, although I'm not sure if it would be Cap or Tony that made that kind of a sacrifice. Some of this sounds pretty legit, some of it sounds like it's talking about other things that we're pretty sure will happen, like the OG plot leak. So I don't know exactly where I fall on this. There's some very interesting ideas here. However, we should keep this in mind when we go in to see the movie, and if some of it's true, we'll go back and be like, damn, this guy was right. Now, the biggest thing that people are talking about with this leak, and the reason that people think it is not true, is because of the idea that we will not meet Captain Marvel until the third act of the film. Basically, Captain Marvel will not meet the Avengers until the third act of the movie. She'll be active in the plot, but not until the third act will she meet the Avengers. And the reason people don't believe this is because we got another leak last week talking about how the post-credit scene of Captain Marvel is her popping down behind the Avengers as they're all examining the beeper. This would be Captain America, Thor, and Black Widow, and I think Rocket's there as well. And it's implied that this happened earlier on in the plot, like this would be a first act, second act type of thing, because it's short hair Natasha, I believe. So it's like a leak proving another leak wrong. So we'd have to believe the first leak if we wanted to not believe the second leak. It's really, really confusing.
Doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let me try to give my thoughts briefly here because I know this episode's getting pretty long because it's a crazy leak here. But first of all, I do think there were a lot of problems with Endgame trying to get it done, but I don't know if they were like catastrophic, the sky is falling. It's just normal problems when you're trying to make a movie like that. So, I mean, I tend to believe that there were a lot of reshoots, that there were a lot of reworkings of ideas and plot devices, but not like to the extent that maybe the OP is talking about. Also, the idea of Captain Marvel facing Thanos on Titan 2 and getting depowered is kind of dope, but it seems kind of fan fiction-y to me. I don't know if that's the way they're gonna do it. I don't really buy that. Now, them copying the stones is a very interesting idea. Makes a lot more sense than them getting it through time or getting alternate dimension versions. So maybe that's the way they're going to end up doing it. That would be very interesting. And ultimately, them getting stones, using the gauntlet, Hulk using the gauntlet and losing his arm, and someone picking up the gauntlet and having to make the ultimate sacrifice to bring everybody back. That makes sense. It's sort of been teased in other leaks. I think that will end up happening in Avengers Endgame. And so that's the news out there, guys. Tried my best to break down this leak. I definitely skipped over stuff, so go check out the original Reddit post itself. And I mean, there's so much to unpack here. Please let me know what you're thinking about this in the comment section. We will probably end up having to do a fan chat about that. I cannot do one today, unfortunately, but maybe tomorrow afternoon we'll break down this plot leak and talk about it with you guys. Now let's check the nerd card before we get out of here. I want to know, who is the man from Cairo that was teased in Captain America Winter Soldier? Who is that Marvel character that's hanging out in Cairo? Answer that question in the comment section below. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.